Myanmar. This golden land is dwelling to its golden era. Myanmar is evolving politically, socially, and economically. Myanmar is emerging as a prosperous nation. The country possesses abundant natural resources, a strategic location of the crossroads of Asia, a young population, and a sizable market with wide-ranging investment opportunities. As much as 90% of the Burmese population practice Buddhism, making it its main religion in Myanmar. Half of the Myanmar's economic output, notably all large industrial enterprises, domestic wholesale trade, and nearly all the retail trade. Historically, Myanmar has become the focal point of the export trade from the 17th to 18th, because Burma was already the main trade route between the India and China. Today, much of the population is engaged directly in agricultural, fishing pursuits. Those who are employed in other sectors of the economy, such as transporting, processing, marketing, and exporting agricultural goods. Myanmar's long-term vision is to achieve inclusive and sustainable economic growth with national reconciliation. Success in the initial set of reforms, some challenges remain in both economic management and the pace of the process. A great example of these challenges is the COVID-19 pandemic. The first wave of COVID-19 March to early August, Myanmar only recorded 360 cases and 6 deaths. However, in the second wave, they were overwhelmed with 76,414 cases and 1,695 deaths.
Myanmar has abundant energy resources, particularly hydropower and natural gas. However, the country's energy sector has been underdeveloped due to global isolation and lack of financial and technical capacity. Compared to other ASEAN countries, the contribution of Myanmar's banking sector to the economy is limited. Myanmar's banking asset to GDP ratio of 49% is the lowest among ASEAN peers. However, starting from a very low base, Myanmar's banking sector is one of the fastest growing in the region, a fact highlighted by an asset growth rate of 18%. People often think of Myanmar when anyone mentions frontier markets in Asia. This Southeast Asian country is indeed a perfect example of the region's rise as a whole. Meanwhile, investing in Myanmar's property market could soon after healthy returns. The media have exemplified Myanmar's story of political and economic reform during the past decade. Tourism in Myanmar has gone through a major transformation since the country opened its doors to the rest of the world with the arrival of democratization in 2011. Although the number of foreign tourists visiting Myanmar is growing, it is still the smallest amongst the least developed of the ASEAN countries. Myanmar is blessed with a large numbers of tourist attractions, and hence there is great potential growth for the tourist industry. It is not difficult to see the possibilities of future growth for the Myanmar tourist industry. All that is needed is to improve both hard and soft infrastructure, making it more convenient and comfortable to access existing tourist attractions, which can be utilized in encouraging further growth in tourism. Given the key role of foreign direct investment in developing and diversifying Myanmar's economy from one based largely on agriculture and natural resources and one oriented more towards manufacturing and services, as well as in reintegrating Myanmar into the world economy, attracting foreign direct investment is a very important objective of government policy. Thus, the government of Myanmar has been steadily implementing several related measures to improve the investment and the business environment.
In Myanmar's international trade agreements, the government's decision in the early 1960s to limit foreign trade reversed the export orientation of the British colonial period. However, the subsequent relaxation of trade restrictions, notably the legalization of trade with China and Thailand in the late 20th century, allowed trade again to become a significant component of the national economy. Natural gas is Myanmar's primary export, followed by pulses, teak, minerals, and gems. Its principal imports include machinery and equipment, industrial raw materials, and consumer goods, largely because of sanctions imposed by United States and the members of the European Union in the late 20th century. Myanmar's Asian neighbors, including Thailand, Singapore, China, South Korea, India, and Japan, became its chief trading partners. In 2012, the EU suspended its economic sanctions before lifting them altogether the following year. After the return of the civilian rule, on March 2016, the United States ended its sanction programs. In Myanmar's workforce, a large youth population is frequently cited as one of Myanmar's major strengths. The country may benefit from a demographic dividend with a large share of the population engaged in productive work and supporting a smaller share of older and non-working people. While its demographic profile is favorable, the country suffers from a number of key deficits in its labor structure. A large share of workers is underemployed and thus are not able to contribute their full energy to economic output. Moreover, the workforce is relatively undereducated and low-skilled. And finally, the creation of an organized workforce is still in its infancy, with most workers engaged in various types of informal work and with a trade union movement that is only recently reviving after years of suppression. Labor disruptions due to strikes may pose a concern for foreigners seeking to invest and take advantage of low wage. Underemployment is a serious problem and is defined as working less than 44 hours per week. Embarrassment over the depressed economy in Myanmar, a nation predicted early after independence to become the richest state in Southeast Asia, only to become in December 1987 to be one of the world's least developed nations. The problems are compounded in some minority areas that remain insecure and under military hold. In eastern Myanmar alone, 500,000 people are internal refugees. Land grabbing conducted by the military and the state and given to state entities or to businessmen to close to the regime is endemic. Corruption undermines business transactions and legal decisions. Can foreign aid ameliorate these problems? Since 2011, there have been two major catalysts for reforms in the government of Myanmar's management of public finances. The first is the creation of the parliament and the establishment of the PAC or PAC. The second is the separation of state and the regional budgets from the union. Following independence from the British colonial rule in 1948, the primary political question was how the newly created Union of Burma would integrate and govern the various different ethnic, deepening democracy in Myanmar groups. Government spending on the military was consistently higher than spending on health and education combined, with Myanmar being the only country in Southeast Asia where this was the case. The government of Myanmar consistently ran budget deficits, with the vast majority of these deficits financed by the government-controlled central bank printing money, with the inevitable result of high inflation. And last but not the least, under a Land Reformation Act, millions of farmers across Myanmar could be forced from their lands they have tilled for generations. Under Myanmar's Vacant, Fallow and Virgin Lands Management Act or VFV, which was introduced in 2012, ethnicities of ownership was not officially documented. This is a common situation among Myanmar's 134 ethnic minorities, who constitute a third of the country's population of 51 million. Their land was considered vacant by the authorities. In effect, anyone could claim it. For example, Chinese businesses have taken over banana plantation for mass export in Kachin, and in Rakhine State, land has been taken over to build oil and gas pipelines because the customary land rights of the ethnic tribes in Myanmar have not been recognized under the VFV law. It means that the farmers don't officially own the land and businesses have literally been taking it by force. Now the question is, will Myanmar ever achieve the freedom from their poverty-stricken country and militia socialism, or are they left alone?